day, all of my God's enemies. Today's video is designed and intended to rip out your spiritual spines. Yep, one last one for the road so I can leave no enemy behind. How do I plan on doing this, you ponder? Simple. After you finish looking at all of the R. Kelly distraction witchcraft your true enemies are pushing at this critical time, I will use genetics. No, not my understanding, but genetics to prove everything I have said thus far. In this case to me, prove through genetics the Bible is 100% correct in saying Shem, Ham, and Japheth were brothers. Prove the sons of Noah's earth circuit locations. Prove the humans called Africans are in Central, Western, and Southern Africa. Heck, why am I sandbagging at this point? This information proves everyone in this modern dispensation are new and fresh clones, etc. Thus, I'm crushing, killing, and destroying just about all of your wayward doctrines at once. Check it out. According to Nature Journal and a plethora of others, under Mummy DNA Unravels Ancestry of Ancient Egyptians, June 1st, 2017. I'm going to let the beat rock so you can get the full brunt of this spiritual boot to the face. Quote, "The tombs of ancient Egypt have yielded golden collars and ivory bracelets, but another treasure, human DNA, has proved elusive. Now, scientists have captured sweeping genomic information from Egyptian mummies. Listen up and proceed. It reveals that mummies were closely related to ancient Middle Easterners, hinting that Northern Africans might have different genetic roots from people south of the Sahara Desert." Stop. Wow. Did you hear that? That shows spine splitting. For the blood don't lie, which can only mean the Bible and all that is said therein is genetically true. The ancient, not modern, but ancient Egyptians were indeed the blood brothers and cousins to everyone in the Levant and the so-called Middle East. And not, and let me repeat, not the humans living in Central, Western, and Southern Africa, which can only mean the Bible is correct in telling us the sons of Ham and Japheth were given the Levant and some of the so-called Middle East as an inheritance, not hot Africa or cold Europe as we know it. But let's continue if you don't believe me. Quote, "The study published on 30 May in Nature Communications includes data from 90 mummies buried between 1380 BC during Egypt's New Kingdom and AD 425 in the Roman era." What? Talk about new and fresh. Wow. Now listen to this. Quote, "The findings show that the mummies' closest kin were ancient farmers from a region that includes present-day Israel and Jordan. Modern Egyptians, by contrast, have inherited more of their DNA from Central Africans." Stop. Bingo! And seeing the modern Egyptians are Arabs and Turks, that can only mean they were manufactured after 425 AD as well. I mean, can you logically, genetically, or historically explain how in the Hades can the ancient Egyptians, who are supposed to be the brothers of the Africans, not have any modern African blood? But the modern Egyptians, the motley crew that they are, have African blood coursing through their diverse veins, and it not be because the modern Egyptians, Turks, Arabs, Africans, etc., are new and fresh from the same factory with the African DNA as stock. You know, when they tell us about this percentage and that percentage. But let's continue just in case you think I'm just hyping this information up. Quote, archaeological discoveries and historical documents suggest close ties between Egypt and the Middle East. But, personal quote, it is very nice that this study has now provided empirical evidence for this at the genetic level, says evolutionary anthropologist Omar, something starts with a G, of the State University of New York at Buffalo. Personal quote, more than half of the, listen to this is important. More than half of the mummies we studied had pretty decent DNA preservation, says co-author Johannes Cross, a paleogeneticist at the Max Planck Institute for Science of Human History in Jena, Germany. That's a pretty good, they're high up there. That's the A-OK. Yeah, you want to talk about prestigious. Yeah, that Max Planck is the stuff. Let's continue. The team, personal quote, succeeds where previous studies on Egyptian mummies have failed or fallen short, says Hans Schroeder, a paleogeneticist at the University of Copenhagen. Stop. Perceptual context. They are about to talk about two different and distinct DNA tests, and not just one. The first test that we just talked about was for the basic genome purposes, and it had many samples that was adequate. The second test, which we're about to talk about now, which only had a couple of adequate samples, were for a mitochondrial / mother-to-child purpose. There was two different things, but it looks as though they're talking about just one. I just needed you to know that before you mistakenly discount the entire genetic study on half of the information. So saying that, let's continue, please. Quote, the scientists obtained information about variations in mitochondrial DNA. See, that's the different test. It's not the first test we was talking about. This is different, which is passed from mother to child from 90 mummies. Because of contamination, the team was able to acquire detailed nuclear DNA, different, which is inherited from both parents from only 3 mummies. Listen up and proceed. Listen up and proceed. Both types of genomic material showed that ancient Egyptians shared little DNA with modern sub-Saharan Africans. Instead, their closest relatives were people living during the Neolithic and Bronze Ages in an area known as the Levant. Strikingly, the mummies were more closely related to the ancient Europeans, the ancient Europeans and Anatolians than the modern Egyptians. What? Say it again. Strikingly, the mummies were more closely related to the ancient Europeans and Anatolians than to modern Egyptians. Wow! Stop! The Africans are not the seed of Ham. Bingo! Both types of tests, daddy and mommy gene tests, show the modern Egyptians, both houses, Africans, and everyone else are not the seed of Ham. This information proves beyond a shadow of a doubt they are not of the seed of the specific Adam and Eve either. What? What about when it said the ancient Europeans and Anatolians? Remember, our ancestors scattered the ancient Europeans and Anatolians and took over their land. And that can only mean they were living and dying in Egypt before we got there. Well, didn't the scriptures and our history series attest? The Egyptians amalgamated with them, the giants, the new and fresh people, remember the anesthesia still, and because these are the mummies, meaning rich people, didn't we already discover the Egyptians had a marriage pact, with all of those kingdoms, Yeah, we did. So as you can plainly see, ladies and gentlemen, and enemies, genetics back up our scripture, history, and our clone theories to the jot and tittle. But let's continue if you still don't believe me. Oh yeah, remember when I deduced the modern people were extremely new and fresh, like 425 AD? Check this out. Listen and proceed. Quote, the researchers say that there was probably a pulse of sub-Saharan African DNA into Egypt roughly 700 years ago. The mixing of ancient Egyptians and Africans from further south means that modern Egyptians can trace 8% more of their ancestry to sub-Saharan Africans than can the mummies from, and that's where that place where they were from, the mummies were from. The new data can't explain, listen to this, the new data can't explain why the ancient Egyptians were so tightly aligned with people from the Middle East. Was it the result of migration? Or were the Stone Age hunter-gatherers of northern Africa genetically similar to those of the Levant? It's too early to tell. No, it ain't, Cross says. But there's a better chance now of getting answers. Example, bingo! I know the answer. Man, my hand is just up. I've been raising my hand the whole time. I know the answer. Genetics prove the scriptures are true. In this case to me, the sons of Noah were only given a specific land mass as an inheritance. You know, the Anatolia Levant, the top of what is called Africa and the Middle East. And not, and let me repeat, not Central, Western, and Southern Africa. Europe, East or West, America, North or South, Asia, etc. But wait! Just like our last theory, this genetic proof also forces you to make a decision. A decision on whether you believe 700 years ago, all of a sudden, and out of the blue, all the chicks in Egypt said, "Me so horny," and got pregnant from an African, or you can decide to understand 700 years ago, a new and fresh pulse, their words not mine, their words not mine, of new and fresh African-blooded Egyptians, Turks, and Arabs hit the market. But either way you look at it, or the entire genetic enigma, I told you. I told you. I would love to see how y'all gonna bend your little doctrines now. Your little back to Africa or your what is that BG, whatever, that crazy crap. All your little things about Africa or these Egyptians going to Egypt. No, these cats are clones of anything. These cats are clones. They're not us. Thank you for looking at this video. This should be the last one of my history on this channel. If you want to listen to the history, please email me. I've gotten some emails already, and I see in the comment section you guys are giving me the email address. It's easier for me to just tap, if you email me, just tap a button to add you to the list, other than me trying to write it down and figure it out. Okay? Email me at baptizedascribe@yahoo.com. That's baptizedascribe@yahoo.com. Okay? Thank you for looking at this one. My enemies,